Welcome to a Homecoming Expedition podcast, where we explore what it means to come home to ourselves together. I'm your host, Rochelle Powell, and with each episode, we'll be exploring the messy, the tender, and the deeply human experiences that shape us into who we are today. This is more than just a podcast. It's a revival and a remembrance of what it is that we truly want for ourselves. It's a homecoming expedition, and you're invited. So, grab your bags, pack some curiosity, and let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to episode 1, take 4. I'm your host, Rochelle Powell, and welcome to a homecoming expedition. So, I just recorded my first episode, and 5 minutes in, my little microphone died, so there was no sound. Anyway, that's okay. It is what it is. That is a great learning experience. And that is what this podcast is about for me. Anyway, who am I? Why the fuck am I here? What is this about? Am I recording? Yes, I am recording. Is there sound? Yes, there is sound. My name's Rochelle Powell, and I grew up in regional Western Australia. I work in aviation. I freeze every time I ask myself this question because I'm really at a point where I have no fucking idea. I get to be myself, truly myself, for the first time, and I don't even fully know what that looks like. So we are exploring that together. But I love to sing. I'm learning to love dancing. That has been a whole thing. Dancing is a creative expression that uses your body, and to me that is like the most vulnerable thing that you can do, but we're getting there, and I am really passionate about deeply knowing myself. I believe that the deeper I know and understand myself, the deeper that I can connect with the person or the people or the audience in front of me, because I'm not coming from a place of projecting my shit and my experiences onto you. And my favorite thing in the world is connection. Just breathing and checking the microphone. God. My last episode was banging. I fucking nailed it. But obviously it was not supposed to be released. Otherwise we would have sound. So what is this podcast about? So as you would have heard in the intro, it is about a self-discovery journey where I'll share my stories and insights and learnings as they happen, as they unfold with you guys, and bring in everyday, relatable, but extraordinary, incredible people to share their stories too. Because I really believe that within everyone's lived experience, we've all done different things. We all view things differently. We all have a different perspective. I think that there is so much untapped potential connection out there from just opening up these conversations. This podcast gets to be a platform where you can feel seen, heard, and understood through relatable shares, through relatable people talking about their experiences. You know, I think that there is something to be said about the realizations that you can have just from listening. You know, my mentor, shout out Michelle Panning, she knows this story. I was back in the day, I listened to her podcast, and then found her on Instagram. I don't know, I forget the sequence of events, but I was so triggered. I was like, I'm not listening to this shit. Fucking unfollow, see you later. And that's a me thing, to be very clear. That is not about her, that is about me and what she was sparking in me. So yeah, anyway, I was vacuuming my house and her podcast episode came on, and must have just been in the algorithm or something I'd saved prior, I don't know. And I was busy vacuuming, so I didn't stop what I was doing, and I just listened for a little bit. And I had the biggest realization, and it was such a catalyst for me on my personal development journey. But the realization was that I am attracting emotionally unavailable men because it allows me to stay emotionally unavailable. And I was like, drop the fucking vacuum, screaming around the house, literally stomping around the house, like, oh my God, like this makes so much sense. And that realization gave me the agency and the ability to make different decisions and to like notice my pattern, you know? Before that, I didn't view it like that. It was kind of this energy of, oh, why do I have these men that don't want to commit to me in my life? And anyway, that's a whole nother story for its own episode. But you get the gist. And that was just from listening to her talk about her experiences. So I think that there's so much, what is the fucking word I'm looking for? There is so much value. There's so much value in this type of connection. So yeah, why am I starting this podcast now? I had a really fucking hard year last year. And truthfully, I think a lot of people did. That seems to be the general consensus. And I have my theories about why, but that's a whole different conversation as well. But yeah, I found myself last year. At the start of the year, I had such a plan. I had a direction. I knew where I was headed. I was with my partner at the time, who is one of my favorite people. And we had a plan. You know, I was going to finish my diploma of kinesiology and remotely study the advanced diploma, because we were going to move to a town together where I was going to start my business. And, you know, sidebar, for those of you that don't know kinesiology, it is an incredible healing modality, energy-based work, and it is just incredible. And I'll go into that more in depth at a later date. But the point is, I had this sense of direction. I had a plan, you know, and where I was moving to, there was no other kinesiologists, so there was no competition. And that was it. That was the plan. And then later on in the year, I had a really big family breakdown, and that really threw me. You know, I fell into a deeper level of addiction, and I really, really lost myself. And, you know, like in looking back, I'm very glad that I lost myself, because the version of me that I lost is not the version of me that's sitting here doing this thing with you. But it was really fucking hard. Eventually, I had nothing to give. And on an instinctual feeling, I broke up with my partner, which just made no sense. You know, he was my safe space, he was my person. But yeah, like I said, I just had nothing to give. I almost had to completely reset. And yeah, so I followed that intuition, even though it was fucking terrifying in the darkest days of my life, to let go of my security blanket, my person. And yeah, and then there was more family breakdowns and illness in the family, inside those family breakdowns, and then a loss of friendship and navigating the addiction stuff. And it was a lot. And you know, in time I will talk about elements of that. But the point is, by the end, from the start of the year, I had such a purpose, such a direction, to finishing the year with, I have no fucking idea who I am. I have no idea what I want, no idea where I want to go. And I couldn't see it. I couldn't see my future. I couldn't see the vision anymore. And, you know, whilst that now is something that you know, and a part of me knew it at the time too, but I knew that this will be eventually a liberating feeling. At the time, I just felt lost. I didn't feel safe anywhere I went, because I didn't feel safe in me. My sense of identity was in the bin, you know, I was lost. So, as I started to work through those things and I started to allow myself to be supported by the people in my world and the community that I had created and the people that I had chosen, to be in my life, I let them in and I let them see these parts of me that had never been seen before. I was able to pull myself out of this hole with the support. And, that was a really big thing. So I then found myself at a point where I'm like, who the fuck am I? What do I want? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? This modality that I was studying, kinesiology, it was the thing before. And now, so deeply, instinctually, I knew that I could not do level 3. I could not do the advanced diploma. It just felt like something else was coming in and I had no fucking idea what that was, and I needed to let this go. And I did, and I'm glad, because truthfully, I wouldn't be sitting here making a podcast because I would not have the time, space, and energy to do both. And, there's other exciting things happening too. Like, I'm exploring what facilitating breathwork looks like. I'm doing a course at the moment to be a support facilitator, which, in only the 2 sessions that I've done, it has been already incredibly rewarding, in that it is such a privilege to be part of someone's journey like that, and the journey that it is for me to be able to support and facilitate people's expressions physically. So why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you this because this is why I am starting a podcast, because I wanted to really tap into my creative energy. I found myself at a point in my life where I have a lot more time. The connections and the habits that were taking my time before no longer take my time. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't want to sit here and watch Netflix for all that time. Don't get me wrong, I definitely watch Netflix. But I wanted to do something with this, and I wanted to create something. I wanted to birth something. And I didn't even know that that's what I wanted until someone, or 2 people really, someone in my world that I met on a retreat in December, which was a whole ass thing, this retreat. Yeah, it was a whole ass thing for the sister wound, the mother wound, the feminine wound, like all of that shit, which is, again, a whole nother episode. But this woman that I met on the retreat, in our integration call a month or so later, she had mentioned that she wanted to start a podcast, and I was jealous. I was like, I want to start a podcast. And then all of these limiting beliefs came up. Who the fuck are you, Rochelle? No one's going to listen. You don't have a business to plug. Like, what's the point of blah, 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 blah. All of this limiting shit came up about why I can't start a podcast. And when I step back from that, those beliefs that aren't mine, those fears that are come from wherever the fuck, like, when I step back from those limiting beliefs and I look at the truth of it, anyone can start a podcast, because all you're doing, if you want to, is talking online. And we talk to people every day. And no one's out here saying you can't talk to people. So yeah, in feeling into that jealousy and going, oh, why am I jealous of this person? What does she have that I want for myself? I realized that this is actually something that I've wanted for a while in my head, but I've never said it out loud. That's not true. I haven't said it out loud to many people. And now I have all this time on my hands. Cool. All right. Let's give it a go. Has it been easy? Absolutely not. It is fucking terrifying to sit here and put my face and my voice and the shit that I have to say into the world. But I'm just so done with letting perfectionism and the fear of being seen, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of rejection, I'm so done letting fear stop me from putting myself out there. So here I am, trying something new, doing something that feels uncomfortable, and I'm just so willing to be cringe, because there's no way that I'm going to get good at this without making mistakes, trial and erroring, You know, I want to explore these parts of myself. And I really want this to be a space and a platform where people get to do that too. So, my intention for this podcast is to be as transparent with you. I don't know if I've already said this before because I'm confused about the recording that I did where I lost the sound. But anyway, my intention is to be as transparent with you as possible about creating this podcast, the shit that comes up and the limiting beliefs that come up and what is holding me back, you know? And the invitation is to follow along on that journey. My number one value is curiosity. So the invitation is also to ask as many questions as you want. You know, if there's something that you want me to speak into more, let me know, because I am learning as well. And I anticipate that this will take a life of its own. This podcast will evolve as I evolve. And yeah, I really want you guys to be a part of that. All right, I'll see you later on episode 2. Thanks for listening to this episode of a Homecoming Expedition podcast. If you want to follow along the journey and the behind the scenes of this podcast unfolding, be sure to check out our Instagram page @A Homecoming Expedition. And I'll see you in the next episode.